Alright folks, welcome back to another exciting episode of Memory Lane here, and we have Afterburner on the Sega Master System here, but today we're going to be checking out some of my LCD handheld collection that we have here. Tiger Electronic Handhelds, Konami Handheld, you know, quite a bit of different old LCD handhelds, so we're going to be checking those out. See if we can zoom in right here so you guys can see it better. I'm going to try my best to do this. Now we're going to start off with these three handhelds here. We have Sonic 1. And you can see Sonic 1 right there. This is an original Sonic 1 from my guy. I'm probably pretty sure this came out in 91. But if you look at the back of any Tiger Electronic Handheld, it's going to say 1988 because the shell that goes around the handheld is cookie cut and mass produced and used on tons of different games. Basically, the shell itself is copyrighted for 1988, but that's how cool it looks. You have Sonic right there. This came out around the same time that the Sonic 1 on Genesis came out, and it looks really cool. Is the game good? Probably not. And here we have Sonic 2. And starting next year, I'm going to be recording a video on each of these handhelds individually, so you can see the gameplay on them and how bad some of them are, and you know, all that stuff. The nice graphics they have, like this has Sonic and Knuckles on it. Pretty cool. And this is an original one. You can see right here, there's the original copyright. There's also reproductions of these that the copyright is on the side, on each side, and it says 2020 or whatever year they came out. But this is an original. Now here we have a reproduction just so you guys can see it. It feels a little different. Now, this is what the copyright looks like on the back. It's on the sides, and it says 2020. Now the one thing I don't like about the reproduction models, look at the screen here. You see the overlay background graphics. See how nice and bright it is? That's Sonic 2. You can see it very, very clear and bright. Now look at Sonic 1. This is another original. Alright, you can see the background graphics really, really clear and bright right there, right? Nice and bright. So it's easier to actually make out your sprites, if that's what you want to call them. Your LCD little sprites. Which on these handhelds, they're going to be all black. Now, here's the reproduction. It's dark. It's much darker. Why? I don't know. Is this Sonic 2? Nice and bright. Sonic number 1 from 1991. Nice and bright. Reproduction Sonic 3. Dark. I'm not sure what the hell they did. I'm not exactly sure what the heck they did to the reproduction handhelds, but they definitely, they're not that good. Let me see here. I got 3 minutes on here. I'm trying to calculate how long we have to record this. Let's move right along here. So I'm going to show you guys the next one. This is another original handheld. Let's see if we can get this to focus here on the screen. This is Batman Forever. And you can see this one has a nice bright screen on it too. Now I know what you're thinking, like, why the hell do you have Batman Forever on the Tiger Electronic Handheld? The console versions are horrible. And well, next year, sometime next year, we're gonna find out whether the actual handheld version is actually worse than the console version. I mean, in most cases, the Tiger Electronic Handheld version is the absolute worst of any version of any game. But is this going to be any better than the actual horrible, horrific console versions. There could be a possibility it might be better. Who knows? I'm going to record the video starting next year, and we'll see exactly what happens. Alright, next up, we have Jurassic Park. Nice bright screen right there. And this is an original Jurassic Park Tiger electronic handheld. Scuffed up and played quite a bit. Pretty cool looking. The button configurations are a little different on each one. I'm going to put this down here. Now I have 2 different Power Ranger handhelds. They're both the same. I'm going to show you guys these handhelds. One of them looks like it has a slightly brighter screen. Like this one right here has a very, very well-defined back layer graphics for the screen right there. And it's the Power Rangers electronic handheld, and it's the original one. You can see right there. This came out like '94, I think. Now I have another one here. The screen's okay. It's a little bit more dull, in my opinion. You see the differences here? The screen's way more defined on this one. And this one is just a little bit more dull looking. I don't know if that's just me. Look at that. Look how defined it is on there, and then on this one is dull. There's definitely a clear difference here. I don't know what the heck. I mean, I wish I could show you guys a side-by-side comparison here. Maybe I can. So, these are both originals. And I'm not exactly sure. Now also, if you look at the back, I'm going to show you guys something here. On the back here, if you look at the writing, where it actually lists the batteries, one of them is actually, the actual copyright text is slightly different. Like the actual font is spaced more apart on this one than this one. So there's definitely some sort of weird revision or difference. This one does appear to be the better version. It has a much more clear screen versus this one. Really weird. So if you do get or collect these handhelds, or you do plan on getting these handhelds, there is apparently some weird variations and differences between each one. They're not all quite the same. Like, these look identical, but they're actually not. And they're originals. So it's just weird. Alright, next up we have a really oddball handheld here. This is a Sega Tiger electronic handheld. It's a Virtual Fighter. I mean, can you imagine playing Virtual Fighter on one of these things? I mean, here's the copyright right here. This must have came out like now in '95, according to what it says here. So, Virtual Fighter and a Tiger electronic handheld. Can you imagine asking your parents for a Sega Saturn and yet you got one of these instead? That's basically what happened to a lot of us. That's how we ended up getting these things. Here's a nice old one from 1989. And this one I think has batteries in it because it feels pretty heavy. Yeah, I have batteries in this one, so I have to turn it off. Or remove the batteries. Jordan vs. Bird, 1989, Tiger electronic handheld. Nice bright screen. Yeah, Michael Jordan. What the hell? Not Michael Jackson. I don't know why I said that. So I had an Iron Sheik moment there. Michael Jordan and Bird. And there we go. We got the this one has like a little patent sticker on the back. Look at that. Right here on the bottom. And this one's 1988. Pretty cool. Nice. This is probably one of the older ones I have. And I'm going to take the batteries out of this one. I honestly Didn't realize the batteries are still in here. But never keep batteries inside your handheld, because you can end up having leaky batteries and they will ruin the contacts. So you want to make sure you take them out. And there we go. Nice sports handheld. There was a lot of pretty cool sports handhelds back in the day. Alright, here we have another one here. This one feels kind of heavy, but there's no batteries in it. This one right here is another reproduction handheld right here. This is X-Men. Now, I don't have the original X-Men handheld, so I can't do a comparison on the screen, but the screen looks a little dark, much like the reproduction Sonic 3. You see it there, it's a little dark, so it's kind of hard to make out what's going on. It's not quite as bright as the originals. For some reason they use darker screens. And this one right here, you have the copyright on both sides here. This one came out I think in 2020. Yeah, 2020. And this one has weird holographic stickers on the bottom, which I don't know what that's all about, but that one ended up having that on there. I have no idea what that is, but yeah, that's what that looks like. It's basically a replica of the original, except I'm willing to bet that the screen's a little darker on this one. You see how darker it is. Look at that. Alright, next up we have a really oddball Tiger electronic handheld. We have Daytona USA. And now this one actually comes with like a little light on the top. You can push it in and it pops out. Daytona USA. And this one actually has a holographic screen. So this screen is actually really dark. But when you actually have the light on, you can see like a 3D effect on it. And this one takes a lot more batteries than a normal handheld. So, for example, I'll put the batteries in real quick and I'll show you guys. You guys can have a little sample. And I'll make a separate video on this. And that thing will make your ears bleed. So you kind of see it right there. Oh god. That sounds horrible. And the light still works. There's like a little holographic background overlay. And basically, when you play the game, I guess that's what made this one fancy. Is it had like a little holographic background overlay, and it has on the actual label you can see all the Daytona USA graphics and stuff like that. Pretty cool. Is it nearly as good as the Sega Saturn version? There's a slim chance of hell. There's a slim chance in hell that that's going to happen. Like, this is definitely not good. And I don't have the actual back cover on this one. And that's another problem with these handhelds. Like, if you had them back in the day, the back covers mysteriously disappeared. Alright, let's move on to the next one we have here. Let's see, where should we start? I think I'm going to start with, I have a couple of wrestling handhelds. We'll start off with this one. We have the WWF Attitude MGA handheld. The MGA made some pretty good handhelds. They're actually, in my opinion, better than Tiger electronic handhelds. And MGA made some actual pretty fun, decent LCD handhelds. And you can see the graphic overlay very, very clear. It has 3 rings stacked on top of each other. And there's what the back of it looks like. This came out like probably 1997, according to what the back of this says. This is a pre-Attitude Era, or beginning Attitude Era handheld. This came out exactly when the Attitude Era first started. Well, this handheld, it's basically a clone of this handheld right here. So it's literally the same thing, except the back overlay on this one's a little different. But this is a Hogan WCW handheld from '95. This right here, if you want a wrestling handheld, this is the best LCD wrestling handheld that you can get your hands on right here. This is really, really fun. It's actually a really, really good LCD handheld. And it's a classic WCW Hogan handheld. It's actually really good. Now, back in the day, I'm going to go into more details on this one in a separate video, so I don't want to go too in-depth with it, but these are pretty much identical as far as gameplay goes. The screen on this one's bigger. You can definitely tell the screen's a little bit smaller on this one, so they kind of cheaped out, but everything else seems to be the same. Maybe this one's a little touch smaller. But this one is like, if you want an old LCD liquid crystal handheld for wrestling, this is the one you want to get. I'll make a video on that eventually and you'll see. Alright, next up we have this little teeny Sting handheld. Oh, look at this thing. You can barely see it. I mean, this thing's like Tamagotchi size. Look at that. Look at that screen. I think some of the Tamagotchis have bigger screens than that. Now, I don't know exactly how much gameplay you're going to get out of this little thing, but this thing is tiny and the D-pad looks horrific. It's a W7 Nitro LCD handheld made by Tiger Electronic. No, this is not an MGA handheld. If this was an MGA handheld, this would probably have a chance of actually being good. We'll make a separate video on this one as well. Alright, next up we have a really, really old handheld here. This one's pretty cool. The looks of it's pretty cool anyways. You have the WWF Royal Rumble handheld. And this one is not as fun to play as the MGA handheld. The two MGA wrestling handhelds were better. But this came out way before those. This came out like in '91. It's an acclaimed handheld. Nice purple graphics. Or a nice purple shell, that is. And you can see the WWF ring right there in the center on the overlay. And it's a nice simple thing. They also made like Acclaimed made quite a few handhelds. They made like a Knight Rider, and they made a Rambo one. I'm curious to actually check those out too. But this is the only one that I own. So we'll check this one out eventually on a separate video. And the one thing I can tell you is that this handheld actually has several wrestlers in it. It has like Ted DiBiase, Andre the Giant, and I think one other wrestler, if I'm not mistaken. But you'll see it eventually soon. I think it has Earthquake. This one right here... Actually, I'm going to get to this one first. This one is a nice, generic handheld. It's a... called Stack Challenge. And this is basically a Radio Shack version of Tetris. This is their take on Tetris. It's basically Tetris, but it's Radio Shack Tetris. And Radio Shack made some really, really good handhelds back in the day. And I don't know for sure what year this came out, because it doesn't quite say on the back. But I remember having a Radio Shack Tetris handheld back in the day. I think this was probably it. I recently got this, and I'm pretty sure this is the one I had. Radio Shack had actually some pretty good generic LCD handhelds, and this is definitely one of them right here. This is actually pretty good. It's a good version of Tetris. I'm going to make a separate video on this eventually, and you guys will see periodically next year I'm going to be making videos on these things. This is a very good version of Tetris. You guys will see that soon. You'll notice a lot of the more recent LCD cloned handhelds pretty much ripped off that screen layout. Because I have one that I bought recently and it has the same exact screen. Basically designed for Tetris. Apparently Radio Shack had that first. And I guess a lot of other cheap LCD game manufacturers stole that whole idea, that whole design. For example, I think I have one around here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can see it, I'll grab it. I'm pretty sure I have it around here somewhere. It's a cheap Psp Handheld. I did a video on it recently. And I don't know where... Actually, I do see it. Okay, one moment here. So this Radio Shack handheld probably came out in the early to mid-90s. Now this I found this year in an Ollie's discount store. You can definitely tell that the screen layout is basically the same, if not this cheaper. They basically ripped off this old classic handheld, but they put it inside of a PSP bootleg shell. But this is like the original Radio Shack right here. This is like a nice bigger, larger screen, and this thing is actually, quality is pretty good. And I'm not sure if I have batteries in it. I don't have batteries in it. Good. Yeah, this is the original one right here. It's really, really nice. And last but not least, I've been going on 21 minutes on handhelds. This is like my all-time favorite handheld right here, besides the wrestling one, the Hogan one. This one right here is like, for me, the gold standard of LCD handhelds. If you want to get at least one old LCD handheld, this is the one you want to get. This one right here. It's the Ninja Turtles, the first Ninja Turtles Konami handheld. And you can see the background graphic overlay right there. This handheld, man, this is definitely a big part of my childhood. I remember going to my cousin's place, and he had one. I would play it there quite a bit. And then eventually my mother somehow, my dad and my mother found one somewhere. I don't know where. It was at a video store. And they bought the same one for me. So I used to play this thing nonstop. I didn't have a Game Boy back in the day. This was my Game Boy. This thing right here is an actual decent, fun LCD handheld made by Konami. I always loved the graphics on it. They had the Ninja Turtles logo right there. All the turtles with the red masks instead of the regular colors. So this is kind of similar to what you would see on one of the NES cartridges. And this came out in like 1989. It has some nice grips on it. I'm going to make a separate video on this one too. This is definitely my top #1 favorite LCD handheld. And I just want you guys to, if you guys want to buy LCD handhelds, which it's kind of like one of those things, I don't know if anyone would want to really do that, but if you do, this is one you want to get. So, I'm just going to show off a few of these here. See if we can actually get a thumbnail. Alright, let's do it. The LCD handhelds right here. This is going to be the thumbnail. I want to see if I can show off the turtle ones a little bit better here. Alright, there we go. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next time for, who knows, I'm right now I'm kind of late on making videos. I'm working on stuff for next year. All these handhelds I'm going to make videos on separately next year. So next year is going to be a much more busier schedule for me. I'm trying to get things hammered out way more in advance because I have a lot of things going on in my personal life that are not really the greatest at the moment. So you guys keep in touch, and I'll see you guys next time. Give a thumbs up and comment down below and subscribe and let me know what you think.